Okay, hello, this is Jonathan Rizal, and I'm coming up with the final not the final, we have one more subtopic before we finally end chapter 3, talking about your perkembangan gerakan nasionalisme. What we haven't seen so far, nasionalisme tempatan dan pendudukan Jepun. Okay. This subtopic compared to 3.7 is a lot shorter. So 3.7, right? Okay, so no. 3.5, we just about the factor why Japanese came in. Then the serangan, how did they attack? Then 3.6 is about the way they took over dasar pendudukan. So how was life like during the Japanese colonization? 3.7 was about how people went against the Japanese, and now 3.8 we're talking about the gerakan, the perkembangan, how did it expand? So coming over here, we are divided to 3 parts. Number 1, perkembangan semangat anti-penjajah. Anti-penjajah, just any kind of colonization, not just Barat or Asia, just outside. We don't want any colonizers. Then perjuangan menuntut kemerdekaan dalam kalangan orang Melayu, and finally kesedaran politik di Sarawak dan Sabah. Now, I'm gonna jump first here into your perkembangan semangat anti-penjajah. So look over to your textbook, page 80. Now, okay, actually the first thing I want to give an overview about is perkembangan nasionalisme semasa pendudukan Jepun mempunyai 3 aspect, right? Big aspects. So here we just talk about it. Your perkembangan semangat anti-penjajah. So let's start with that first. For here, the first point I want to make is that over here say pendudukan Jepun di tanah Melayu berlaku ketika bibit-bibit kesedaran nasionalisme mula berkembang sebelum Perang Dunia Kedua. Slogan Asia untuk orang Asia, which is the propaganda spread, right? Dan konsep, okay, this is a long one, lingkungan sekemakmuran Asia Timur Raya, also by the Jepun. Okay, all of these things, right? What were they to do? Number 1, menekankan kebebasan negara Asia. Kebebasan meaning the freedom of Asian countries, negara Asia. Number 2, it was also to menentukan kemajuan, to show the what do you call this? Progress. Okay, then for your third and final point, buat untuk meningkatkan persaudaraan sejagat. This one we talked about this in the 3.6 for your dasar pendudukan sosial. So meningkatkan your persaudaraan, the feeling of a family. Okay, for orang Asia. Now coming on with this, konsep ini selari dengan perjuangan golongan nasionalis, terutama Kesatuan Melayu Muda. Meaning that all of these ideas, right, this concept selari is on the same tone, like dalam nada yang sama dengan your KMM, your golongan nasionalis that we learned in chapter 2.7, 2.8 and 2.8. Then we also mentioned that KMM bekerjasama, your Kesatuan Melayu Muda bekerjasama, work together dengan Jepun. They were on the Japanese side, and they also, this is a time symbol, berharap, hoping that they can receive dia punya kemerdekaan tanah Melayu. Oh, what the hell? Kemerdekaan tanah Melayu. Okay, but this succeed, you can probably tell, right? That although they work together, our independence still cannot be relied on outside powers, kuasa asing. So moving on, they say kejayaan tentera Jepun mengalahkan British. Kejayaan, the success of tentera Jepun, when mengalahkan means to defeat something, British. Okay, menyedarkan orang Asia juga mampu mengalahkan orang Eropah. Menyedarkan means to share the awareness, so like letting people know that hey, Asia juga boleh mampu is the word, 有能力, they have the ability to mengalahkan, defeat orang Eropah. And why is this so important? Because orang Eropah dianggap sebagai kuasa besar. Seemed impossible, right? So then we follow onwards. This is all about the perkembangan. So this is how they expanded on these ideas during the pendudukan of the Japanese. Then we come over to the next point, which is your perjuangan menuntut kemerdekaan dalam orang Melayu. So now they have this strong nationalism inside of them. Now they're trying to free themselves from all colonization. So we start here with langkah awalnya. Okay, tentera Jepun membangkitkan nasionalisme dalam kalangan orang Melayu. Okay, adalah dengan membebaskan ahli KMM. Membebaskan means set free. And remember in your 3.1 and your chapter 2.8, they already mentioned that with the enactment Undang-Undang Islam from your British, a lot of the ahli KMM, right, the Kesatuan Melayu Muda, they were all captured. They were all penjarakan. So they state here yang dipenjarakan by who? The British. Okay, but this is where they are freed by the Japanese. And on the same time, pentadbiran tentera Jepun buat apa? Gave them the ruang kepada kegiatan politik KMM. Gave them the space, ruang. Kegiatan politik of the KMM, the Kesatuan Melayu Muda. And following on this, kerana memerlukan sokongan masyarakat tempatan, they needed the local people's support. Alright, then we go to the next point, where namun begitu, in 1942 of June, that's why I use red because it's like a namun begitu. However, what happened was, tentera Jepun, they did something quite surprising. Mereka membubarkan. Almost to say they demolished, bersurai, memansuhkan your KMM, your Kesatuan Melayu Muda. They're like, okay, we don't want this thing anymore. Kerana tindakan pemimpinnya menuntut kemerdekaan daripada Jepun, because they were trying to get menuntut kemerdekaan. They were trying to get freedom from the Japanese, and they were like, wait, we're not cool with that kind of stuff here. So pemimpin KMM sedar bahawa, that's when they realized your leaders are pemimpin KMM were like, okay, that's it, sedar bahawa your Japanese, your Jepun tidak akan memberikan what? Freedom, kemerdekaan. Okay? Thus came the next perjuangan, where perjuangan kemerdekaan diteruskan. They did not stop there. See, diteruskan. How? So, diteruskan dengan taktik dan strategi baharu. Taktik meaning like technique, tactics, and strategy baharu. So I'm going to put the Chinese word here, sing. Okay. Now, what did they say? Anggota KMM, that means the members. Anggota meaning the members of your Kesatuan Melayu Muda that has been abolished, dibubar, that's the word you must use, B-U-B-A-R. Oh, dalam organisasi ketenteraan ditubuhkan oleh tentera Jepun. They're like, okay, listen. So since we demolished your group, they're like, okay, what if we give you a different one? Iaitu the new organisasi ketenteraan is your, they give the names here, Gyugun and your Gyutai. Okay, these two groups. Then later on we can tell you on the side here, the glossary, they tell you, okay, Gyugun atau pembela tanah air PETA, yaitu ialah pasukan tentera sukarela yang ditubuhkan untuk membantu Jepun mempertahankan tanah Melayu. Ibrahim Haji Yaakob, a name you've already learned before in chapter 2, mengetahui Gyugun sebagai Lieutenant Colonel. However, for Gyutai ialah pasukan yang membantu pertahanan pesisiran pantai dan menjaga ketenteraman awam. That for your Gyugun, it was more just militaries in general to fight for the entire Tanah Melayu. Gyutai is a bit smaller, where it was only for your beaches, your pesisiran pantai dan menjaga ketenteraman awam. Onan Haji Siraj, a new name, mengetahui Gyutai sebagai Lieutenant Colonel. Okay, so brief through this. So, with these two things, what happened? Well, mereka, meaning your anggota KMM, right, menyertai gerakan bawah tanah menentang Jepun. They went for their own little underground meeting, their own underground movement, thus the word bawah tanah, that was going to go against the Japanese. Menentang Jepun. You don't want the Japanese to find out about that, do you? So, pada masa yang sama, bekerja sama dengan pentadbiran tentera Jepun. So, at the same time, they were working together with the Japanese. So, moving on, what's next langkah? Over in 1945, in June, which is a few years later, where we're reaching the closing point of World War II. This is where Hitler has already passed away. So, here, Jepun tertekan dengan serangan pihak tertekan dengan serangan pihak bersekutu. Tertekan means you feel stressed, you feel pressured. Because tekan itself means to push something. So pressure dengan serangan pihak bersekutu. Remember your Amerika Syarikat, Britain, your Belanda, everyone. Okay, so mereka berusaha, Jepun berusaha, doing their best to do what? To memenangi hati, to senang hati lah golongan nasionalis Melayu. They're like, oh no, we're on a losing point, right? So we need to keep all of you like happy and such. Okay, so then we have our characters here. Dr. Burhanuddin Al-Hilmi, a name you've learned in bab 2.1, your pendapat tokoh regarding maksud nasionalisme. Ibrahim Haji Yaakob, again mentioned in 2.5, 2.6. Oman Haji Siraj, a new name. Dan bekas pemimpin KM lain, what they do? Menubuhkan Kesatuan Rakyat Indonesia Semenanjung, KRIS. Okay, and then Jepun merestui matlamat KRIS. Merestui means 支持, they support. They're like, yeah, sure, do that, why not? The gaff, bro, as long as you don't betray me. And here we say tujuan KRIS. What was the point of having KRIS? Well, is to mencapai kemerdekaan tanah Melayu bersama-sama dengan Indonesia. To mencapai kemerdekaan. Okay, at the same time of your Indonesia, melalui semangat Asia untuk Asia, not Asia untuk orang Asia, it's a little bit different, okay? Asia untuk Asia. Then on the 15th of August 1945, tentera Jepun, what did they do? Menyerah kalah. You're like, hey, how come? Because this is when the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened. So, tentera Jepun menyerah kalah. They surrendered. Menyerah kalah. Berikutan pengeboman, this is the keyword, pengeboman bandar, the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, what happened then? Jepun memaklumkan kepada KRIS tidak dapat dilaksanakan. That means they informed that, hey, your whole KRIS idea, right, not happening. KRIS is not gonna happen. Tidak dilakukan. Laksanakan, sorry. To which perjuangan mencapai matlamat Kris diteruskan. They're like, okay, sure, whatever, DGAF, I'm gonna continue it. Penubuhan Parti Kebangsaan Melayu Malaya, PKMM. So to give a short brew, if you don't know how these like names have been forming, right? We started with your KMM. But then the Japanese membubarkannya. They're like, hey, no. Then they formed the Kris. And your Japanese are like, yeah, I merestui, I support this idea. And then they're like, actually, I have surrendered. So no, this idea is not happening. Thus, they came on to the final idea, PKMM, until they reached their merdeka. Okay, the kemerdekaan. So, parti politik pertama semasa zaman pendudukan Jepun. This was quite special, okay? Nothing much here. We're gonna go on to the next one, which is your kesedaran politik di Sarawak dan Sabah. Okay, I'm quite tired. So, let's go. So, Sabah dan Sarawak, the first thing you should know is merupakan kegiatan penduduk di I'm not in my class headspace. We're going to use blue for Sabah and red for Sarawak. Sabah has more to talk about. Where kegiatan penduduk di Sarawak dikawal was controlled melalui persatuan yang tidak ditaja oleh tentera Jepun. Ditaja 意思说 it was almost sponsored 的意思。Sponsored. Okay. Di mana contohnya persatuan Cina yang digabungkan melalui Kakyo Kokokai Japanese name Japan. Okay, Kakyo Kokokai berikutan dengan kekurangan pegawai Jepun, orang Melayu dan Iban diberikan jawatan dan kuasa yang lebih tinggi sebagai pegawai daerah yang sebelumnya hanya disandang oleh pegawai British. Meaning there were changes formed with your Kakyo Kokokai, where your persatuan Cina seberang laut anjuran Jepun, right? So they formed, menggabungkan. They could they could connect these two groups, persatuan Cina. Okay, merangkumi dialek daerah dan nama keluarga di bawah satu pertubuhan. You're all under one grouping, okay? Then, Kakyo Kokokai diasaskan di Kuching. It was formed all the way at the beginning of it at Kuching, which is like the current Ibu Negeri, the capital of Sarawak. Then they also tell you that, okay, your Kakyo Kokokai mempunyai cawangan di bandar utama yang didiami oleh orang Cina seperti di Cebu. That means had a lot of emphasis on the Chinese people because of the population there. There's a lot of Chinese people over at places like Cebu. Then they also tell you, okay, there was also the kekurangan pegawai Jepun that I just mentioned just now. We didn't have that many pegawais. Now, instead of sending over like more people from Japan, they're like, no, we should just give this opportunity to the local people. Okay, that's a lot easier for them. So, orang Melayu dan Iban, I just mentioned this. Iban, okay, they were given jawatan kuasa lebih tinggi. Jawatan kuasa that previously could only be handed to the British people sebagai pegawai daerah. They can now become pegawai daerah, meaning like no, 地区地方lah. Ini memberikan keyakinan, it gave them the confidence, gave them the belief that pegawai tempatan boleh menjalankan tugasan penting kepada pegawai tempatan untuk menjalankan tugas penting. Your local people, your local pegawai, your local officers thought that they can now do some real things, okay? They can do some very serious, more important jobs. Penting. Okay. Dan contohnya, kesedaran politik melalui pengalaman pendudukan Jepun menjadikan peribumi Sarawak lebih yakin untuk berkerajaan sendiri selepas Perang Dunia Kedua because they were given the opportunity to do like their own management on such like how they takbir Sarawak, they were more yakin. That's your keyword here, yakin. To do what? To berkerajaan sendiri. To rule over their own government system after World War II. Boom, that's it. Come over to Sabah, and then we finish this entire subtopic. So over here, I want to tell you, pendudukan Jepun menyuntik. Menyuntik means 刺激, almost like sparked in a sense. Menyuntik, almost sparked in a way, kesedaran berpolitik dalam kalangan masyarakat setempat di Sabah. Okay, so beberapa pertubuhan ditubuhkan. Okay, a lot of words. Beberapa means a lot of pertubuhan, a lot of groups, right, were created, ditubuhkan. Selepas pendudukan Jepun, after the Japanese settlement. So after they left, they were like, hey, maybe we should do like more like party politics in a sense, to fight for our own rights. And at the same time, Parti Kebangsaan Melayu Labuan, otherwise known as your PKML, was formed oleh Tengku Nurdin. They give you the picture in the textbook. Abu Bakar Zakaria Gun, berdasarkan idea Harun Aminur Rashid, nationalist Tanah Melayu. Okay, if you don't recognize his name, Harun Aminur Rashid, what's his name, right? Double R. He is in chapter 2.6. He wrote the novel Melo Kuala Lumpur. That's for your extra information. So yes, he is related to your previous chapters. Then, Parti Kebangsaan Melayu Tawau. I argue this is a bit more important. Parti Kebangsaan Tawau. Okay, Tawau is a place in Sabah. Fun fact, if you didn't know, from 3 chapter 7, when you learn about Mat Saleh, I'm pretty certain he passes away in Tawau. That's for you to know lah. Dan dipengerusi oleh orang kaya-kaya Abu Bakar. Orang kaya-kaya not actually meaning rich man, but rather the name they had for the leaders. And that is all for 3.8 perkembangan gerakan nasionalisme, tempatan, dan pendudukan Jepun. Move on to our final subtopic, and I will hopefully get a break from this. Bye bye.